So here we are at Cape Breton University, and we're having another discussion about artificial intelligence. This time we're bringing you a special set of guests, a couple of students from Acadia University. Luke Mannering and Luke Warner actually have developed an artificial intelligence project that they have been pitching as a business idea called Dahlia. And they've been going through the process of working their startup and being university students at the same time. So let's welcome in Luke and Luke.
Hello.
Hi.
Great to have you guys here. So you have a unique perspective. You're both working in the AI space and studying at the same time. So I'm glad that we've had the opportunity to bring you in. Just a bit of background for those that are watching this. We met at a conference, a startup conference, a couple of weeks ago at St. Bex University. And we had a little conversation, and I was intrigued by the fact that you were, like I said, students working through your education system, and had also begun a startup that primarily has a product that features like AI in the background, or AI as its driving force. So maybe what I'll ask you to do first is maybe you can introduce yourselves. You're both studying at Acadia University. Maybe Mr. Wagner, you can tell us about your program and what you're studying.
Yes, so I'm in my fourth year at Acadia University studying biology with a major in bio and a minor in business, and I'm the co-founder of Dahlia.
Awesome. And Mr. Mannering.
Yeah, I'm Luke Mannering, and I'm studying computer science after switching from engineering at Acadia. And I'm currently part-time, so I'm doing Dahlia for the other part of the time.
Great. That's cool. So let's just cover a little bit about your project, Dahlia. Maybe one of you could tell me about how that started off, where the inspiration was, and what the current status of the project is.
Yeah, so a long time ago, no, I won't go that far. In the fall of 2022, this is actually pretty long ago, I started experimenting with, because I had access to GPT-3, and I started experimenting with what if you could take this thing, which at its current time was basically very good text prediction. You'd put text in, and then you'd click generate with some type of makeshift prompt, and it would continue to generate the text that you had inputted. And then I started to think, okay, what if you could turn this into a conversation between you and an AI? Kind of like talking to GPT-3. I mean, a few months later, they came out with ChatGPT. So obviously, I must have been onto something, which is nice. But then I made a working version of that in September of 2022. And then the next thought that I had was, so this is cool. You can ask it questions. It can, tell you how to make a meal. It can give you restaurant recommendations. It can do a whole bunch of stuff. But what it doesn't have is a ton of information about you. What if you could then take that chat bot, basically, and integrate it into everything else that's on your phone? And that's kind of where the idea of an integrated AI kind of came from for me. So I started working on it a little bit, on the side, because I was, doing a full course load in engineering. And that was for about a year. And then eventually a pitch competition came around in what was that, like early spring of 2023 at Acadia. And that's when I had the idea, hey, I've got this idea and they're offering, some money. I'll compete in that. And I pitched the idea of Dahlia, which was I wanted to build this chatbot that could do things in your calendar, could set reminders for you, all that kind of stuff. And I ended up winning first place. And that's also where I met Luke Wagner. And since then, we kind of combined forces and we started working on it a little bit over that summer and throughout the next year. And then a year after that pitch competition, it kind of got a lot more serious because we had an iMessage version of Dahlia that was able to do a ton of things and integrate into your calendar or your email. And then that's when we decided, let's not do our summer jobs. Let's try and turn this into an actual viable product that can turn a profit. And then that's kind of what's brought us here.
Interesting. That's good. Mr. Wagner, your perspective. Well, how did you come into this project?
Yeah, so that pitch competition that Luke had mentioned, I saw that there's a grand prize, $5,000, and being broke, I was like, that sounds great, $5,000, that'd buy me a lot of beer. And I pitched a carbon removal device that I was trying to prototype. I had also gotten into AI a couple months before that, and I remember seeing Luke and talking to him and being like, wow, this is so cool. Later in the summer, I had messaged him saying, I think AI is really exciting, would love to know what you're doing, and we joined forces together. Like Luke said, we kind of worked on it slowly with school, and this last summer, things really, really picked up. We also joined Volta, which is an incubator in Halifax, and through there we started doing more than just hacking on the side. We started making the actual business. We got our ICP, which was our students, and we moved the product in this direction where now we're generating revenue. We have a small group of students, and we're able to target this group of people and build a product around them that can really help their lives.
Awesome, awesome. So you're like a nascent Steve Jobs Wozniak, kind of starting off at the from your bootstraps, pulling yourself up. That's great, and it's good to see you're involved with a couple of Volta, and, some of the other incubators and projects, and other pitch competitions. That's how we met. So tell me a little bit about Dahlia. Just who wants to give me the broad strokes of that project?
Yeah, so Dahlia is a personal assistant that integrates into students' calendar, inbox, and reminders, and it manages and automates that entire process for them. Now, it doesn't just pull out, a test deadline, but it'll pull out the deadline as well as study blocks with the weeks leading ahead, and it balances your calendar with all of your extracurriculars. So if you've got any clubs, your classes, and it's able to kind of populate your calendar every single day, so you just need to wake up and execute.
Cool, cool. Sounds good. Sounds like something a lot of students could use. A little help with organization is not bad for anybody. So,
Definitely.
so that's awesome. Now, you've both gone through. You've both been attending university in a pre-artificial intelligence world and a post-artificial intelligence world. So you and I, although there's probably 20, 30 years between the difference of us, we're both generation one for artificial intelligence from I guess, a consumer point of view. Maybe you could take me through your first experience each with artificial intelligence. Where did that first hit your radar? And I think well, Luke, you talked a little bit about that again. Maybe you could expand upon that.
Yeah, so my first experience with artificial intelligence was actually before university. And that's when I kind of discovered OpenAI, because I had no idea they existed. No one I knew had any idea they existed. And what they had was a version of GPT-3 called DaVinci 2. And DaVinci 2 was absolutely nothing compared to the intelligence that, came with ChatGPT. It was very stupid. It absolutely could not do any math. It hallucinated every other word. But it was very intriguing because it was like, oh, all of a sudden, I have something that can almost write an email for me. And that's really cool, going from the most intelligent thing I'd ever seen before that in terms of text was very good text prediction or paraphrasers. So to have something actually generate something from me saying, okay, I need an email, was very new. And that's kind of where my brain started to go like, okay, how far could you go with this? And then as the models started coming out and they started getting smarter, the possibilities that you could do with it just started expanding and blowing up. And of course, that's how I got into Dahlia.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Mr. Wagner, what was your first date with artificial intelligence?
My first date with AI would have been my first set of exams in my very first year. I remember GPT had just come out, and a friend of it had told me about it, and I think they said, it could write poems and do some really basic stuff, and I thought, how can I use this to help study? And it did not help me study. Back then, it was not very good, but now, I actually had this conversation with a friend last night. I can't imagine studying without ChatGPT. So it's funny to think my very first time I was trying to see how I could use it and it failing, and now I use it daily to study.
Okay, well let's continue that up. You're using ChatGPT to study. How exactly do you use AI to study right now?
So my current system for exams is I'll pretty much preload a chat with all of my course content. So I'll add all the slide decks, all of my own notes, and then I'll get it to kind of act as a personal tutor for me. So I'll get it to quiz me, work through the content individually, and teach me different aspects. And it has become my tutor. And I do that for every single course. I do that for all my midterms, and I use it every single day to do that now.
Interesting. So have you pre-programmed or fed it like an agent? You sort of have a database or repository of information, and you're having to draw upon that, or is it like sort of a one shot, or you give it a single topic or a single category or chapter and work from individual topics?
It depends. Sometimes I'll give it, the whole course. So I'll give it, a bunch of PowerPoints. I'll give it the textbook, so it kind of has that repository of information. And sometimes I'll simply upload one textbook or one chapter of a textbook and say, hey, I need help with like this part. So it really depends, and then I have to prompt it different ways as well. Sometimes you're prompting it to be able to understand the whole course, and sometimes you're prompting it just to help you, test yourself.
Okay. Maybe on the mechanical side of that, is it ChatGPT-4 you're using, or are you using something else, Claude?
Right now, I switch between Perplexity because with that I can switch models. I'll use Gemini or OpenAI, or I'll use GPT-5.
Okay, you're on to GPT-5. How's GPT-5 working out? I haven't looked at it yet.
It's better than GPT-4, but would still say Gemini's leading in terms of models. Their Gemini 3 is pretty fantastic.
Okay. Mr. Mannering, what's your use case for ChatGPT or AI in your current studies?
Yeah, I use it all the time to help me understand calculus because I have a hard time understanding calculus. And this was something that AI could never do before reasoning models came out, which was, I think, just over a year ago is when the first reasoning models started popping up on the scene. And since then, they've gotten much better. So, I mean, they started with O1, and then they got O3, and then, of course, GPT-5, and now we're on to like 5.1.
Okay.
So yeah, it's gotten a lot better. It's gotten from the point, like I've seen it go from the point of, first of all, it can't do math to, okay, it can't do calculus one. And then, oh, well, it can't do this advanced calculus. And then of course it can do anything I throw at it now. It's really great. So I use that to help me figure out how I'm meant to solve problems, walk me through the step-by-step process for formulas and stuff like that.
Okay. And you're using ChatGPT-5. I haven't looked at 5. I had heard that 5 still had some problems. I didn't know what they were, but you're both actively on 5 now, are you?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So you've been around for the beginning of AI in education in university. So what was the first, I guess, institutional reaction to ChatGPT or to AI in the classroom? How did your profs react? Maybe Mr. Warner, Wagner.
Let's see. I think the first time a prof interaction happened with it was I was taking a philosophy elective, and I think some people in the course were caught cheating using AI. And I think that was the first time it was addressed. And the address was, the prof saying, "Hey, this is out here. This is you can't use it for your essays or anything like that." I think that was the very first time that it was addressed. And then shortly after, then the professor started coming out and addressing, this is AI. You're not allowed to use it for your classes. But slowly, it's moved into, professors trying to recommend you to use it for certain aspects of your coursework.
So the mood has softened up a bit, and the academic staff is, I guess, learning to use it in the classroom.
Seems like they're trying to. I still think it's far from where it needs to be, but compared to the first time when profs talked about it, saying how you cannot use it at all, some professors seem to be, telling students to use it as a tool and to help them.
Okay. So what's your opinion on that? Prohibition versus trying to integrate it into the classroom. Have you seen that progress? And have you got any things you've seen or any tactics that you've seen professors use that have been successful in integrating AI?
The only integration I've seen has been professors telling you, say you have an assignment, they would say use ChatGPT for the start of your assignment. But there hasn't really been much integration. The only tool I've seen used is the Turnitin, which is kind of the AI detector, which Moodle uses. Beyond that, there hasn't been, in my opinion, enough integration of AI.
Okay, so still a little slow on the uptake. Mr. Mannering, so you're a computer science student. As a computer science student dealing with the infiltration of technology, how has it changed computer studies for computer science?
Yeah, so I saw it over the course of basically one of my courses where I watched the computer science department basically transition from, not really doing anything about AI at all. And I heard a lot of people that were just, writing their final exams with AI assisted programming tools. To, no, we got to do something about this. So then, of course, my final exam was entirely handwritten code. Um, and that was basically the extent to which they dealt with it when I was in my computer programming courses. And I think that's the way that they're still dealing with it. As for, other courses, it kind of started out as a bullet point that they put in the syllabus at the beginning of the year. And there's a lot of profs have very different ways of approaching it. So you'll get some profs that are like, if I ever catch you using this, I'm going to try and expel you. And then you'll get other profs, like one of my, I think it's computer science, human stuff courses. And they had a completely different approach of, yeah, use it as much as possible, but please do not make me read AI slop because I'm going to hate that. Um, yeah, two very different options. I'm not really sure which one's best. Um, I think you can learn both ways, but I think the struggles that they're having right now is trying to figure out which one is most optimal and which one can we actually feasibly do. Because you can try all you want to lock assignments down as much as possible, but people will always find a way to cheat.
Yeah, so you were actually handwriting assignments, handwriting code, and that was the
Yeah.
yeah. So how'd that work out? Was that how's that class going? If you've progressed back to, I mean, people haven't handwritten code since probably the 1970s. So
Yeah. It's interesting all of a sudden because when you're typing code you're able to sometimes run the program that you're doing to look for bugs, and of course if you're handwriting it you can't run it. So they had to kind of change the way that they grade it, and not look for like, oh, you used the wrong print statement. Well, yeah, I used the wrong print statement because I wasn't able to test the code I was running. So they've had to change the way that they grade that, and they've also had to change, assignments, because a lot of assignments you could just take, oh, here's the whole problem description, dump that into ChatGPT, copy paste whatever the result is, run it once, it works perfectly because of course it does, and then submit that, and that would be like, I don't know, 30% of your grade.
yeah,
All these
yeah,
assignments that were just entirely AI generated. So they've
yeah,
they've had to do a lot of changes, and they're still like constantly flip-flopping between, this whole like, oh, we should adopt this as much as possible and integrate it where we can because we're not going to be able to stop it, to of course the other side, which is we need to stop it as much as possible because you won't be able to learn if you're constantly using it.
Hmm. So I'm going to stick with the technical side just for a second, and then we'll get back maybe to some of the other subjects. But in the computer science side, um, how do you think that process has affected your, I guess, your cognitive development, your ability to learn? Um, is it easier learning new concepts and ideas with the assistance of AI, or has it become a bit of a crutch? Is it something where it's so simple to have AI generate your projects and your assignments and code that you're not fully developing some of the fundamentals? So there's the argument. So how do you think that is transpiring in the technical space?
Yeah, I think it's both. It's both a crutch and of course a very useful tool. It's a crutch in the sense that if I don't want to think, I technically don't need to. I mean, especially when I'm, working on code for Dahlia, there's a lot of things where if I need a feature developed, I can just go on and I can vibe code it. But then there's also a lot of cases where you can't do that. Um, so if you apply that to, doing your assignments and trying to learn calculus, you could easily just use AI to solve all of the problems for calculus. And I guess that's the crutch argument. But then the other side of that is it is the most useful tutor you've ever met because it can make anything as basic as you want it to be. It can put you through every single step, and it's probably not going to make any mistakes along the way. And it's always there 24/7, and a lot of it's free. So it's super accessible to anyone who needs it.
I guess the argument there is that you don't need to build an internal combustion engine to drive a car. So, and in computer programming, I mean, we've had libraries and package code and stuff like that for quite a while. So, very few people probably start a project from scratch. You're starting from the base of some sort of library for the most part. But the thinking process, do you find that yourself you've been learning faster or easier or better with the aid of AI taking you through something, or do you find you're absorbing material more readily if you kind of have to think through the problem yourself on a personal level?
Yeah, I think the only way to actually learn something correctly and have it stick and actually understand what you're doing is to do it yourself. So if you get AI to just show you, here are the steps to solving this formula, and then you just look at that. Well, I mean, you're not going to know it. You're going to know it better than you did, but you're not going to know how to actually solve that formula. You have to do it yourself. Um, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Let's bring Mr. Wagner into the conversation. So I think we had mentioned you had mentioned something about the discussion about the usefulness of papers in an academic setting. There was some discussion. Maybe tell me about that.
As in using papers within your studying or writing papers?
Writing papers. Yeah.
I think my grandmother is still a teacher. She's a professor at the Mount, and she asked me how can I get, my students not to cheat. And I told her the only way is to write papers. I took a course last year, and the final exam was a paper. So you had to sit in and you had to write an essay on the entire course content. And writing papers, there's no way to use ChatGPT, especially if it's handwritten. There's no way to use AI. Now you can use it in your preparation, and that's where it becomes really valuable because you're using it to help you learn to figure out all the different topics. But once you're there and you're writing your paper, it's just you and your thoughts and your mind. And I think writing a paper is a very strong way to allow students to learn without having the crutch of ChatGPT.
So you're talking about like an in-class process where you're writing your paper in that communal setting without a computer and pencil and paper in hand and yeah. So just the evolution of ChatGPT or AI within your classmates, your cohort. How did that transpire? Like, were people actively using it appropriately? Was there a lot of plagiarism and academic issues kind of transpiring? How did that roll out over I don't know, the last 2 years, I guess? How'd that roll out?
I'd say in my group, it was a complete mix. It was some people using it fully to plagiarize, some people not using it at all, and some people trying to find a balance. It was a very wide distribution at the start. Now everyone I know uses it. I don't know anyone that uses it to plagiarize because it's kind of gotten obvious what is AI text and what is not. But I don't know a single person that doesn't use AI for their school anymore. Everyone I know, even my sister, who's a couple years younger, all of her friends are using it. She's using it. It seems every student has adopted it now.
Okay. So if I go back to the previous discussion, I talked about the effects on your cognitive development, the effects on your ability to think independently. How has that worked itself out within I guess your cohort, your classmates? Are they finding themselves that they're thinking more? I don't know what the term I'm looking for. Um, the quality of their consideration for their topics and the material, how they're thinking. Is it improving, or are they leaning on AI as more of a crutch to kind of balance the workload and the assignments and the testing and exams that they have?
I'd say a lot are using it more as a crutch. They're using it as just a way to get through their assignments, and less of how can I use this to benefit myself. It seems that everyone is using it, but they're not really using it to broaden their knowledge. They're more using it to speed the development that they can finish their assignment or work on their essay or study. It's more an enhancer and less of a tool that's going to help them learn better.
Okay. But are there any techniques? I think you might have talked about a couple here, but what are the best case scenarios for the use of AI? What techniques would you recommend so that someone can both take advantage of the technology but still maintain a level of academic integrity?
The way that I study, I really stand by, feeding your course to the assistant, ChatGPT or whatever you're using, and getting it to teach it to you back. It's a tutor basically, and it's going to save you a lot of money for not paying for an actual tutor, and it does really help you learn. This year, all of my tests and final exams are on paper, so there's no cheating that you could possibly do. And this really is allowing people, me and my friends who also use this technique, to truly learn when you feed the assistant everything. I couldn't recommend anything like that more. It is kind of the best way that I've been able to learn using ChatGPT.
So I guess the future trajectory for yourselves, and I guess all students in universities, you're going to be graduating at some point in the next year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is, and you're going to be ejected into industry, into the working world. And one of the supports, or one of the things that people who are advocating the use of AI, one of the things they say is that AI has been rapidly adopted in multiple industries, if not all industries, and in order to compete, you're going to have to know how to use these tools. So, as someone that's imminently going to be entering that work world, how would you like to see universities preparing you for that eventuality?
I would say I think the saying that people have been saying now is AI is not going to replace you, but one person using AI will replace 10 of you. I think it's completely true. The amount of productivity that you can do using artificial intelligence is unbelievable. And I think schools should start to help students get to that point where they are using it as much as they possibly can in a productive sense. If you're an accountant, you're going to be able to do all of your accounting work 10 times faster using artificial intelligence. So I think schools really need to start enabling students instead of, the scare tactics of, well, if we find you cheating, you're going to get expelled. It should be, helping students adopt these tools, and not just ChatGPT. There's amazing tools out there, a very wide range from all subject matters that students need to learn about so that they can start to adopt and use beyond their education.
Okay, Mr. Mannering, let's bring you into this. How would you like to see university preparing you for a future where AI is going to be central to whatever your future profession is?
Yeah. So if we see university its role as preparing you for the workforce, then I think, while it's very important for to be taught things and how to do, like, let's say, accounting without AI so that you can actually understand what you're doing, that's very important. But at the same time, if you don't use AI in any of your accounting work and then you're launched into a workplace where it's heavily used and depended on, you're not going to be very well prepared for that. So I think part of the university's role, if it is to prepare you for the workforce, should also be to prepare you for the integration of AI into whatever it is you're planning to do.
How could that be done if next semester the university wanted to implement something? How would you recommend they do that? Do you have any ideas on that in the short term?
Yeah. Um, It depends on the year, I think, because first year probably not as important. Second year maybe not as important. But when you get to third and fourth, I mean, you're getting, slowly near the end of your degree, where by the end of that you should be hireable. I think universities should, at that stage, definitely be embracing the fact that AI is an existing technology, and you need to be prepared to know how to use it and also prepared for its use in the material that you're doing. Because if you didn't do that, it would be like preparing students for accounting with typewriters and spreadsheets, which doesn't make much sense since we now use Excel.
Yeah, yeah. Mr. Wagner, you talked about, I guess, that one of the tricks you're using, one of the techniques you're using is to use it as a study aid, as a tutor. Is there anything else that you've seen that AI has been particularly effective at for helping students get through university? Any other techniques or tools, or any new software, anything that you've looked at and said, "Wow, that kind of helps me out. That changes the game a little bit."
Digesting information is a great way that it helps. You can send it a large quantity of information and it can help break it down. I struggle when I'm reading like a huge chunk of text, and a lot of scientific papers are that. You can send the scientific paper to an AI and it'll just help you learn it much, much better. We're also building a tool that we hope students can use for their calendar, for email management. And there are lots of existing tools across the whole board, like I said, for any niche you want. If you're in CS, there's Cursor, which is going to help you develop so much faster. Any domain that you're in, there's going to be an AI tool out there. I think there's 10,000 new AI startups since 2023. Those are all tools for people to use that are going to enable you.
So you guys are in the middle of a process where you're in the middle of an education, you're adopting a new technology, artificial intelligence, and you've started a business. What's the environment like for a student like yourselves that have come up with a product, an application in this case? What's that process been like? You told us a little bit about your story, how you began. But what are the recent learnings? What's transpired, say, in the last 6 months that you've learned about transferring from academia into the business world that you're kind of taking forward? And what kind of advice might you give someone who is potentially interested in starting the same process off? Maybe Mr. Mannering, we'll start with you.
Yeah.
What have you learned in the last little while that should pass on as advice?
Yeah. So in terms of AI, I would suggest, of course, you stay on top of it, just like any technology, really. Uh, at least become familiar with its capability, and you don't need to get a ChatGPT Plus subscription. You don't need to constantly be using AI, but you do need to be aware of what it's able to do. Because I've met a lot of profs that are completely not familiar with the fact that ChatGPT is able to do my calculus. They're like, oh, don't use AI because it's going to give you the wrong answer. It won't give me the wrong answer. I've seen it give me the right answer many times, and it continues to give me the right answer. So if you're not aware of what it's able to do, I mean, it's going to slap you in the face one day. So I think that's probably the biggest piece of advice that I'd pass on is just be aware.
Yeah. So be respectful. I've heard those, I guess, criticisms as well as, oh, it's going to give you the wrong answer, or it's not fully considered. But I've seen some really, really competent work done in the last couple of months in particular, where I would be hard pressed to determine the difference between an AI or a human with how the output was created. So yeah, I think that fear tactic of it's going to give you the wrong answer is a little bit shock worn at this point. Mr. Wagner, your impression of this transition from student to business person. Anything you could pass on to anyone that wants to follow in your footsteps?
I would say to anyone, the barrier of entry is the lowest it has ever been. Information is more readily available to anyone than it ever has been. I'm a biology major, but I'm developing an artificial intelligence app. If you want to learn how to code, it's at your fingertips. If I have a friend who's a business major and she's starting a biotech startup, she doesn't take biology, but all the information is available. So now the barrier entry is so low, and the number one step that people need to take is just to start. If you have any sort of idea, all you have to do is just take the first step, and everything else is there for the taking.
Well, that's amazing. I actually love that. I'm happy to end our conversation on that advice. And with Dahlia, I wish you guys good luck. You sound like you've got a really great start, and the product sounds amazing. Maybe someday you could come to CBU and do a demo for our students here, and talk to others about getting into the entrepreneurial business world.
Definitely. Would love to come
For
to
sure.
Cape Breton.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.